Hey, this is your Uncle Ray again. This is the video that I was going to talk about, the practice basics. And so just getting right to it. First and foremost, whenever you pick up a guitar, no matter whether it's a practice or anything, the first thing that has to happen is you have to have it in tune. And go get yourself one of these. If you don't have it, I thought I saw one on your dad's, big jumbo over there. Kelly's got one. I've seen them around. They're pretty cheap. You can go to Collins Guitar right down the street and get one. They're fairly cheap. I think they're under 20, maybe $15, but they're not that expensive. But they're essential. And this the first thing you do when you pick up a guitar is slap one of these things on there. And the way I do it is, I've seen some people put it to where the thing's in the front. I think they were designed to be put in the back like that, and it's the way I do it, so that when I need to tune, I'm not out here in front doing stuff. I'm over here in the back, and so I'll send maybe another video describing how to actually use the Snarks, because they can be particular. They're not the best in the world, but they certainly function, and it's what I use in my house and on my guitars on the daily basis, just to get the guitars in tune. And obviously the reason why we're, the first and foremost is to get it in tune, is that you're training your ear and your mind to hear what is musically correct and what's not correct. And it's hard to distinguish, where the problem is, when you wonder if it's the guitar is out of tune, or is it, my understanding of what the next note can be, because some of these notes, instead of being what's called a whole step, they're a half step. And when a note, or when your guitar is out of tune, you really can't hear the nuances between these half steps, because they're all wrong. So first and foremost. So the next has to do with actually playing the scales, and I sent you that sheet. Look at them. There's basically there's 3 or 4 different forms. One of them I call the harmony scale, and then there's the one that's called the melody scale. If you're like me, I get really bored with doing that all day long, but one of the things that I want to reinforce is that actually when you're just learning the scales, is 2 things. Number one, end it with the chord, because you're going to want to know when we get into chord progressions and songs and such, or playing chords in different places, it's good to associate when I'm playing this chord, this is the scale, or this is the pattern I need to play over that, and hopefully it'll become apparent later on. So one of the things, again, a thing to reinforce is is to end it with a chord that is associated with that particular scale. And in this case, we're playing an A, which is this, and we're playing in this particular pattern. You see how I'm ending it? See how it kind of completes it? Now all that, we'll get into, all these 3 chords are all basically the same. I'm just playing them pieces out of it. But that's what I want, I think is important for you to be able to put together. It's just like we're going to learn the 1-4-5 progression. You go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Right. So the next thing is, and I know you just do what your mom tells you to do, because she knows better than I about the singing, the vocals aspect to it, and how to get there, is that when you're actually playing this, one of my favorite pieces of training documents that I have, I'll give it to you, or I'll tell you who it is later on, but it's when you're playing these things, if you're training your ear, actually train your voice too. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Now you know why I don't sing, but you know, when you're learning the vocalizations and such, you'll have your you know, your work with your mom, which is, you know, obviously overrides everything. But it's like, I don't think it would harm for you to sit there and when you're trying to play the guitar and you're just doing some of the mundane, just learning this, vocalize. Hey, you know. Hey. So that's that part. The other and the last that I'll do with this one is after you've kind of done a little bit of that, if you're anything like me, I can't do that for an hour. I'm gonna get bored as shit. So I'm sure that you have so many different songs in your head and in your ear, and you know, whether or not they are covers of other bands, you know, obviously Zeppelin you liked, or Clapton, or Mayer, or all these other people, you know, that's great, but you're also, and this I think what's fun, is that you'll have your own tunes that you want to develop and that are in your head, right? So it's like when you're playing, that's just basic stuff, right? So you're going to want to pick a tune or a melody and play the melody, and while doing that, you make sure that you're in the key, i.e. scale. In other words, you're not hitting any raw notes. And while you're doing it, you can start developing those techniques on that are not just basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You know, part of it could be like watch my right hand here. I'm going to sit there, and it's how you do the sweep picking. It's up and down, right? But pick a tune, and I'm just going to use a really simple one right here, but I think it's going to demonstrate what I'm talking about, and I think you'll know the tune. And the things that you should note about that is that it's pretty much in key of D. That's the way I've diagnosed it. But what it is, D, but what it is, it's used, you know, it's used that actual scale because you see how you're sliding up? Those are just from the same notes in the scale, but from the lower octave. So see what I'm doing is I'm sitting there. I'm not just going or. I mean, you're playing it. But, you know, when it really gets down to learning, it's just like, you know when you're sliding up, plus you're going to end up going. And we'll get into the bends and such because a lot of it is, you need to know how to, the training of the ear again. See, that was too much. And so these kind of things are when you're playing and you get out of just, I'm tired of playing on the, you know, the basic little notes and such. Start playing your melodies and start humming or slow singing or just rattle your brain. We'll talk about, how you're, literally the vibrations, helps your brain and your voice, get there. And it's like, it's wonderful, right? And we'll get there where, you can play songs just off your mind that you've heard, or you'll invent some, and you'll be cool. So I think that's enough for right now. I've got 100 million different things I want to share with you, but I think that is just probably perfect for where you're at right now. It's like, what do you want to do and accomplish when you're practicing? Keep it in tune. You're training your ear. Play your scales, end them with, the different, chords that are, right now those are just major scales, so you're going to end it in the major chord, and learn different patterns for those chords. And then when you get away from just doing that, start figuring out melodies. Oh yeah, the one last thing is, like, I played this, You can actually play it in all sorts of different ways. You can go. There's those 4 different, scale patterns. Pick the same melody and play them in all the different chord shapes, and you'll see some of them you might like to play. They're easy for you, maybe some not. But I think the next one I'm going to try to put out there is how you start associating the degrees, as I mentioned in the other ones, on, you have a scale based on a key, but what really goes on is with that, or you have chords that go with it, right? So I'm going to go down to G just because it's a little easier for me. It's like G, you go. And that'll be the next one. Love you, brother.